Hello everybody, Gliderman here. So today we're going to be using the EV3's color sensor. So to do this, we're going to be creating a new project. So we're going to go up here, and we're going to do a LeJOS EV3 project. And that pops up due to the fact that we've used that before. And so we're just going to call this color sensor, space there, sensor test. Make sure this is set to Java SE-1.7, which is for Java 7. And then we can just click Finish, and that'll add it to the project list over here. So we're just going to expand it, and we're going to click on the source folder. We're then going to click this little package icon here, and we're just going to type in pack. And then we're going to finish, and now we're going to add in our own little class. And so we're just going to do color sensor test, like that. And we're going to check this to have it include a main method for us so that we don't need to type that. And we're going to click finish. It's going to automatically open it here. And we're going to delete this comment. So what we're going to do is we're going to be creating a new instance of this class. The main method is basically our insertion point, and so now we need to actually create that class. So we're going to type in new, because we're creating it, and then we're going to type color sensor test, as that's the name of our class. And as we're going to be calling the constructor, and the constructor is a method, we're going to do the parentheses open and close, and then add a semicolon at the end. Now we need to write that constructor, so we're going to make it a public constructor by typing public, and then we're going to type color sensor test, like that. We're going to add a space, and then we're going to do an open brace, and then you can press enter or return depending on the keyboard. So as we're going to be using the color sensor, there's a couple of different things that it can do, and I'm going to spread that across 2 videos. So first we're going to just start off by reading the color, and then in the second video I'll cover some of the additional topics. So first we need to get that color sensor, and unlike in the past, we are not going to create a separate class, as it's very highly customized, kind of-ish, for the color sensor. So we're going to first get the port that the color sensor is plugged into, so we're going to just type port, as that's our port class. And in my case, I'm just going to say that it's plugged into sensor port 3, and so I'm going to name the port variable S3. Going to assign that, and then we're going to change this up from how we did it previously. This is a little bit quicker and easier to do. We're going to call local EV3, and then dot, and then we're just going to call get. It's a little bit shorter to do that than having to like pull in the default brick and then get the port from the brick. And so we're going to basically chain these. So we've got the local EV3, we're getting it, and then we're going to get the port here. And then as this is sensor port 3, you need a capital S and then a 3. If you were using a different sensor port, such as 1, just change that to 1. And I'd also recommend changing this to 1 so that you don't get confused. But for now, I'm using 3. This is going to tell us that we don't have it imported, so we're going to import it not from sound, but from the LeJOS package. I'm going to add another line. Now we can actually pull in that EV3 color sensor, and we're going to make this a global variable. So we're going to type EV3 color sensor, just like that, and we're going to call it color sensor as the name that we will refer to it as throughout our program. We need to, of course, import that, and now we can assign our color sensor to a new EV3 color sensor, and of course we need to pass in a port that it's plugged into, so we happen to have that right here, port S3, and then we're going to add a semicolon. So now we've got our color sensor there, and now we need to get basically a sample provider from this color sensor so that we can start polling it. We're going to go up here and we're going to create a couple more global variables. We're going to have a sample provider, which will be the specific mode of the color sensor. We're going to be using RGB mode, which will basically give us 3 samples, giving us the red, green, and blue values normalized between 0 and 1. So basically, if something was white, it would be 1, 1, 1 for all of those, and if something was black, it would be 0, 0, 0. And also, if something was red, then it would just be like 1 for red, 0 for the other 2. Basically, how the computer monitors and that kind of stuff also work. So anyway, we're going to call this our color provider, like that. And we also need to get a sample to store the data in. So this is going to be a float array using the square bracket there. And then we're going to just call it color sample, just like that. And it looks like we need to import the sample provider. So let's just do that. Down here, we're going to set up our sample provider. So we're going to do our color provider, and then we're going to assign that to the color sensor dot, and we're going to get the RGB mode so that it gives us RGB values, or red, green, and blue. Now we can set up our sample size and that kind of thing. So we're going to set up our color sample. So color sample is assigned a new float array. Now we need to give this float array a size, and so this is going to be our color provider dot sample size, just like that. So we're passing in whatever this size is, whatever the sample size is. And so now our float array will be set up. Now we can actually use that. So we're going to just simply output it to display every quarter second, let's say, until the escape button is pressed. So we're going to do a while loop so that it will continue looping while a statement is true. And we're going to check button dot escape, as that's our exit key, dot is up, because we want to make sure that it is up, and so that we can keep running. Now we're just going to stick in a quick little delay. So we're going to do a millisecond delay of 250 milliseconds. And since there's 1,000 milliseconds in a second, that would be a quarter second. And above it, let's say, we're going to be doing the color provider, and we're going to be fetching a sample. And we're going to, of course, pass in our color sample, as that's where our data is going to be stored. And then we're just going to use 0 as our offset, as that's just going to be convenient for us, so that we can access indexes 0, 1, and 2 of this float array. Now, down below it, we're going to use the values, because we've just got our sample. It was that simple. Those couple lines of code, and we've got our data. So let's output it to the display. We're going to be using system.out.println, which is not the official way of making like a pretty display on the EV3, but as this is just a test piece of code that we're going to be using to run it and show that it does output, we're now going to just be using println. So this is in RGB format, so R would be index 0, G would be index 1, and B would be index 2. The reason why it starts at 0 is that's just how computers work, and yeah, it's how binary works primarily. So we're going to just type R, and then we're going to attach to it the color sample, and then we're going to get part 1, and let's just add a semicolon. So basically this will say R is going to be normalized between 0, being normalized between 0 and 1. It's going to output that little sample variable. Now we're going to do the same thing except for the green, and so we're going to output color sample 1, and same thing for the blue, and blue, and then color sample 2, just like that. So now every quarter second it'll output new values from the color sample, from the color sensor on the EV3, and as we've got ours plugged into S3, it should be good to go. So yeah, that's almost all. I nearly forgot something. Hang on. So, of course, to make sure our code is nice and clean, when we're pressing that button, we want to close the sample. So we're going to do color sensor dot close. That simple. And that helps clean up the ports and make sure that it is open for other programs in the future that we're running. So that should be it, and if you want to run it, you can just click this little drop down here and run as a LeJOS EV3 program, and that'll compile it and then launch that to the EV3. I don't have it plugged in currently, but for yours plugged in, it would download and then run. So thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!